Your fate is set and you cannot escape it.
Two movies are at war within the Northman, the latest film from The Witch and the Lighthouse director Robert Eggers. The first is a fascinating trance-like sensory experience that envelops you in the first half hour. The second is a historical revenge saga that feels much more straightforward while also seeming hesitant in its depictions of violence and sensuality. Despite veering between these two modes of expression, however, the Northman still ends up on the right side of enjoyable. The tale, on paper, is a simple one. After witnessing his father being betrayed and murdered by his ruthless uncle Fjolnir, the Viking warrior Prince Amleth returns many years later to quench his thirst for revenge and rescue his mother. However, the Northman works best when plot momentum is an afterthought, and when it luxuriates in the smoky, shadowy atmosphere created by Eggers and his collaborators. The music by Robert Calron and Sebastian Gainsborough is absolutely key, veering between folk-like strings that evoke the king's regality as he returns from war, and percussions so heavy that with the right theatrical sound system, the bass is sure to rattle your ribcage. There are several sequences when the thundering score might make you want to beat your chest and join in with an on-screen ritual. That sense of ritualism permeates the rest of the story. Amleth repeats his vow to avenge his father and rescue his mother over and over again until it becomes a holy mantra. This mission, however, ends up becoming morally complicated thanks to certain surprising specifics as the story unfolds. By the time these complications arise, the very notion of bloodshed takes on a spiritual bent. While the Northman's magnificent dreamlike sequences feel plucked out of time, its more traditional scenes in the back half tend to struggle. Once the adult Amleth starts his journey, the film then begins to settle into a more standard Hollywood narrative. This isn't inherently a problem, since the romantic element it introduces also features a mystical bent. However, when the story starts presenting less through shadows, music, body language, and dreams, and more through dialogue, the film's weaknesses as classical drama begin to pile up. Across the nearly 140-minute runtime, too many exchanges feel hastily assembled and poorly constructed, with little thought for relationships or rhythm. Some of the more traditional moments unfold in long takes, and they largely manage to hold attention, but when they're deployed for action scenes, the film's shortcomings as a specifically Hollywood production also become apparent. The Northman has plenty of viciousness, but too many of these instances feel bloodless. So much of the violence is implied just off screen, but little of it is felt. The film's nudity and sexuality feel just as dulled. In either case, the camera captures bodies at their most vulnerable, but only briefly before cutting away. It's a good thing the performances manage to reflect at least some of these ideas, concerned with the line between violence and passion, even if the Northman hesitates to ruminate on them in a meaningful aesthetic sense. Alexander Skarsgård's Amleth, for instance, feels genuinely torn between his divinely inspired plans for vengeance and his newfound lust and affection for Anya Taylor-Joy's Olga. As Fjolnir, Claes Bang is simultaneously the most muted performer and the most alluring. Nicole Kidman especially keeps the film afloat when it leaves the most ethereal scenes behind, and she's even at the center of the rare dialogue exchange that feels genuinely visceral and nauseating. Despite its less effective elements growing increasingly prominent, the Northman maintains a sense of possibility and unpredictability thanks to the spiritual notions at its core. Whatever Amleth learns or unlearns sits right alongside his mad visions of glory and his desire to fulfill a self-destructive destiny in a way that ultimately makes the Northman a tragedy. It is, however, a particularly picturesque tragedy that, in its most effective moments, sweeps you up in pulsating fireside customs awash in beating drums that emanate as if from Valhalla itself. That's worth occasionally tolerating scenes that feel run-of-the-mill by comparison. Robert Eggers' Viking revenge saga The Northman works best when it dives headfirst into dreams and disorienting visions, but it slows down when it becomes a more traditional Hollywood narrative. With viciousness relegated to its margins, it often feels neutered and bloodless, but still ends up on the right side of entertaining thanks to its pulsating music and measured performances. For more movie reviews, check out what we thought of Everything Everywhere All at Once and Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. And for everything movies, entertainment, and everything else, keep it right here on IGN.